The Midtown Fitness Center in Phoenix buzzed with its usual post-work energy. Machines clanged, sneakers squeaked across the rubber floors, and faint music pulsed through the gym. Amidst the crowd was Kendra, a poised and focused young black woman. Her presence was understated, yet there was an undeniable confidence about her. Her workouts were efficient: deadlifts, burpees, pull-ups, executed with precision. She didn't engage in small talk, didn't linger, and kept to herself. Clad in simple black leggings and a tank top, with earbuds firmly in place, she sent a clear message. She was here for business, not chatter. As Kendra adjusted the weights on the squat rack, a man approached her. He was in his mid-30s, broad-shouldered, and clearly no stranger to the gym. Yet something about him felt off. His cocky smirk as she noticed him made her instinctively square her shoulders. "You're doing that wrong," he announced, his tone dripping with condescension. Kendra paused, pulling out one earbud. "Sorry, what?" she asked, her voice measured. "The weights," he said, gesturing toward her setup. "You're not adjusting them properly. You could hurt yourself." Kendra gave him a polite smile, her tone firm. "Thanks, but I've got it." But instead of leaving, the man crossed his arms and positioned himself near her, as if staking claim to the area. "I've been coming here for years," he continued. "Let me show you how it's done." "No need," Kendra replied, putting her earbud back in and turning her attention to the barbell. His smirk evaporated, replaced by a scowl. He muttered something under his breath, inaudible but unmistakably hostile. The shift in the room's energy didn't go unnoticed. A few gym-goers glanced their way but chose to stay out of it. Undeterred, Kendra carried on with her routine, her movements fluid and precise. Yet the man lingered, shadowing her as she transitioned between exercises, muttering unsolicited critiques each time. Finally, she moved to the bench press, adjusting the weights with practiced ease. That's when he raised his voice loud enough to draw attention. "Women like you always think you know everything, don't you?" Kendra froze mid-motion. Slowly, she turned to face him, her expression calm, but her eyes blazing with unspoken fire. The Midtown Fitness Center in Phoenix thrummed with its usual after-work energy. Weights clanged, sneakers squeaked on the rubber flooring, and muffled music pulsed in the background. Conversations buzzed around the room, but Kendra was in her own zone. A young black woman in her late 20s, Kendra moved with purpose and discipline. Her workout was a well-practiced routine: deadlifts, burpees, pull-ups, all executed with precision. Clad in simple black leggings and a tank top, she wore earbuds, a silent declaration that she wasn't there for idle chatter. As she adjusted the weights on the squat rack, she noticed a man approaching her out of the corner of her eye. Broad-shouldered and in his mid-30s, he exuded the kind of confidence that bordered on arrogance. His smirk as he stopped near her made her pause. "You're not doing that right," he said, his tone patronizing. Kendra pulled out one earbud and turned to him. "Excuse me?" "The weights," he said, gesturing toward the bar. "You're setting them up wrong. You could hurt yourself." She gave him a polite but firm smile. "Thanks, but I know what I'm doing." Instead of walking away, the man folded his arms and planted himself nearby, as if staking his territory. "I've been coming here for years," he said. "Let me show you the right way." "No need," Kendra replied, replacing her earbud and resuming her workout. His smirk twisted into a scowl. He muttered something under his breath, but she ignored him, focusing on her routine. Still, she felt his eyes on her, lingering, following her as she moved between exercises. When she finally headed to the bench press, adjusting the barbell, his voice rang out louder this time, drawing attention. "Women like you always think you've got it all figured out, don't you?" Kendra froze, setting the weights down deliberately. She turned to him, her expression calm but her eyes sharp. "What exactly is that supposed to mean?" The gym seemed to quiet, the usual background noise dimming slightly. A few people nearby paused, casting cautious glances their way. The man shrugged, clearly emboldened by the attention. "I'm just saying, maybe you should stick to what you're good at," he said with a smirk. Kendra didn't bite. Instead, she gave him a long, measured look before turning back to her workout. But the tension in the room was thick now. an invisible line drawn. Everyone could feel it. The man, however, wasn't done. He followed her to the water fountain, leaning against the wall as she refilled her bottle. "Hey," he barked, "I'm talking to you." Kendra didn't respond at first, calmly sipping her water and screwing the cap back on, but his tone grew sharper. "Look, you don't have to act so tough. If you're struggling, just admit it. I can help." At that, Kendra turned to face him, her voice steady. "Struggling? The only thing I'm struggling with is your inability to leave me alone." Her words cut through the gym like a blade. A few people stopped mid-workout. Their curiosity piqued. The man's smirk vanished, replaced by a humorless laugh. "You think you're better than me?" he snapped, stepping closer. "What makes you so special?" "Nothing makes me special," Kendra replied, her tone even. "But I know how to handle myself. Do you?" The challenge in her words hit a nerve. His face darkened, and he stepped into her personal space, his voice dropping to a low, threatening growl. "You'd better watch your mouth." The atmosphere in the gym was electric now, the tension palpable. A few gym-goers glanced around, unsure whether to intervene. A young man on a treadmill looked at Kendra, his expression uncertain, but she gave him a subtle shake of her head. The man's anger boiled over. His fists clenched as he moved closer, his voice louder. "You've got a smart mouth, don't you?" Kendra didn't flinch. She straightened, her eyes locking on his. Calm, controlled, unshaken. The room seemed to hold its breath. "You need to calm down," she said firmly, her voice steady. It wasn't a request, it was a command. But her composure only enraged him further. He reached out and grabbed her arm roughly. Gasps rippled through the room. For a moment, Kendra didn't move. She was eerily still, her body tensed, like a coiled spring. The man sneered, his grip tightening. "What are you going to do about it, huh?" Then, in a blur of motion, Kendra acted. Her free hand shot up, gripping his wrist with iron strength. With a swift, calculated twist, she forced him to release her. His face contorted in pain and surprise as she stepped back, keeping herself out of reach, but entirely in control. "Let me make this clear," she said, her voice cutting through the silence like steel. "You do not put your hands on me. Ever." The man stumbled back, clutching his wrist, his confidence crumbling. But instead of retreating, he let out a frustrated roar and lunged at her. Kendra didn't hesitate. She sidestepped his clumsy attack with precision, using his momentum against him. In one smooth motion, she swept his legs out from under him, sending him crashing to the floor with a resounding thud. The gym erupted into chaos. Some people shouted, others backed away, and a few pulled out their phones to record. The man groaned, dazed and humiliated, as Kendra stood over him, her stance steady and unyielding. "You really don't know when to quit," she said, her voice low but firm, meant only for him to hear. For a moment he looked like he might try again, but the fire in her eyes stopped him cold. She wasn't just confident. She was skilled, prepared, and dangerous. The Midtown Fitness Center was alive with its usual hustle, weights clanging, treadmills whirring, and faint music pulsing overhead. The incident had passed, but the energy in the room buzzed differently now, tinged with the echoes of what had just unfolded. Kendra stood near the center of the gym, her posture steady and composed. Though her breathing had returned to normal, her presence radiated authority, as if daring anyone to challenge her again. The man who had started it all was still on the ground, stunned and humiliated. Slowly, he scrambled to his feet, his face an uneasy mix of anger and embarrassment. "You're insane!" he barked, pointing a shaky finger at her like a cornered animal. "You think you can just... Enough!" Kendra's voice was sharp and cutting, slicing through his words with ease. "You've done enough damage for one day. Leave." A gym employee, a young woman with nervous energy, finally stepped forward. Her voice wavered as she spoke. "Sir, I think it's best if you go." Now. For a moment the man looked as if he might argue, his jaw tightening and his hands twitching with suppressed rage. But the weight of the stares around him, some judgmental, others cold, seemed to break his resolve. His shoulders slumped, and with a muttered curse, he grabbed his gym bag and stormed out. the glass door slamming shut behind him. The room exhaled in unison, tension melting away like ice under the sun. Someone clapped, then another, until a wave of hesitant applause rippled through the gym. Kendra raised her hand, silencing the crowd with a calm but firm gesture. "It's over," she said simply. The applause faded and people began to return to their routines, though the air still buzzed with whispered conversations and stolen glances. A young man approached her, his phone still in hand, awe etched into his face. That was insane. "Are you, like, a pro fighter or something?" Kendra offered a small, almost imperceptible smile. "Something like that," she replied, leaving it at that. An older woman stepped forward next, her expression a mix of gratitude and concern. "Are you okay? That was terrifying to watch." "I'm fine," Kendra said evenly, her tone measured but reassuring. "Thank you for asking." The young woman from the counter, her name tag reading Tara, edged closer, wringing her hands nervously. "Ma'am, I'm so sorry. I should have stepped in sooner. You did what you could," Kendra interrupted, her voice softening. "Not everyone knows how to handle situations like that." Tara nodded, though the guilt in her eyes lingered. "Should we call the police? What if he comes back?" Kendra considered this for a moment before shaking her head. "He's not coming back," she said with quiet certainty. Her confidence silenced any further objections. With that, she turned and walked toward the locker room. Inside, the atmosphere was quieter, the hum of the gym fading behind the door. Kendra placed her gym bag on the bench and caught a glimpse of herself in the mirror. Her reflection showed a face calm and composed. But there was no triumph in her expression, no satisfaction in what had happened. It wasn't about winning. It was about setting boundaries. Respect isn't optional, she thought as she began packing her things. Just as she zipped her bag, Tara hesitantly stepped into the locker room. She lingered near the doorway, fidgeting with the hem of her shirt. "Can I ask you something?" Tara said, her voice tentative. Kendra turned to her, her gaze steady but kind. "Go ahead." Tara hesitated, then blurted, "How did you stay so calm? I mean, he was so aggressive and you just handled it. How?" Kendra leaned against the bench, folding her arms. "It's not about being calm," she said. "It's about knowing you can handle yourself. Fear loses its grip when you're prepared." Tara tilted her head, curiosity lighting her face. "So, you're trained? Like military or something?" Kendra nodded slightly. "I served as a Navy SEAL for over a decade. I've seen worse than what happened out there." Tara's eyes widened. "Wow, that explains a lot." "It's not just the training," Kendra added, her tone serious. "It's knowing when to act and when to let things go. That guy wasn't just angry, he was insecure. People like that look for easy targets. Show them you're not one, and they don't know how to respond." Tara nodded slowly, digesting her words. "I wish I could be that brave." "You can," Kendra said simply. "Bravery isn't about not being scared. It's about standing your ground when it matters." Before Tara could respond, the older woman from earlier peeked into the locker room. "Sorry to interrupt," she said softly. "I just wanted to thank you. You handled that with so much grace. Honestly, it made me think about how often I let people walk all over me." Kendra offered a faint smile. "Standing up for yourself isn't easy, but it's necessary, not just for you, for everyone watching." The woman nodded, her expression thoughtful. "You're right. I think I needed to see that." Kendra slung her bag over her shoulder. "We all need reminders sometimes." With that, she stepped out of the locker room and into the crisp evening air. The adrenaline from the incident had faded, leaving her with a quiet sense of resolve. She hadn't set out to prove anything tonight. But what had happened served as a reminder to everyone there: respect isn't optional. Perhaps it had been fate. Perhaps someone in that gym needed to witness what true strength looked like, not in brute force, but in self-control, resilience, and the refusal to bow to ignorance. As Kendra walked to her car, the crisp evening air cooling the lingering warmth of adrenaline, she realized the moment wasn't just about her. It was about everyone in that gym who had seen what happened. It was about the lessons they would carry with them. etched into their minds, lessons on respect, courage, and the dangers of underestimating someone based on assumptions. That night, the gym emptied out slowly. Yet the energy of the event clung to the space. Groups of regulars lingered, conversations rippling through the room. Some replayed the confrontation in vivid detail, while others reflected in silence, asking themselves why they had hesitated, what they might have done differently. The incident wasn't just a fleeting moment of drama. It forced people to confront deeper truths about their biases, their silence, and their instinct to look away rather than act. Tara, the young woman from the front desk, sat at the counter after her shift, her emotions still a swirl of fear and awe. She scrolled through her phone, where a video someone had recorded of Kendra's composed yet commanding actions was already spreading online. The comment section was buzzing with reactions. She handled it with grace. This is what strength really looks like. Why didn't anyone step in sooner? The situation wasn't just about what had unfolded. It was about what it exposed. How often do people underestimate others because of arrogance, prejudice, or ignorance? Kendra's calm defiance had shattered those misconceptions with quiet precision. Meanwhile, Kendra sat at home, her dog curled up at her feet as she sipped tea. Her phone buzzed occasionally with messages from gym members, expressions of gratitude, admiration, and even requests for advice. She appreciated their words, but she didn't see herself as a hero. For her, it wasn't about recognition or validation. It was about standing firm in the face of wrongdoing, no matter how large or small the stage. The following week, Kendra returned to the gym as if nothing had happened. She moved with the same quiet confidence, but the atmosphere around her had changed. People greeted her differently now, their nods and smiles filled with a newfound respect. Tara approached her shyly, holding out a small card. "I just wanted to say thank you," she said softly. "You've really inspired me." Later at home, Kendra opened the card. Inside was a handwritten message. "You reminded me that strength isn't just physical. It's in standing tall when it matters. Thank you for showing me what it means to truly hold my ground." It wasn't just Tara who had learned something that day. Everyone who had witnessed the confrontation, or even heard about it later, had walked away with a clearer understanding of strength. Strength isn't about size, intimidation, or bravado. It's about conviction, courage, and the quiet power of standing firm when the world expects you to falter. The man who had sparked the incident never returned to the gym. Whether it was out of shame or fear, no one knew. But his actions had left an impact, not the kind he had intended, but a reminder of what happens when arrogance collides with resilience. As Kendra reflected on the events of that day, one thought lingered. Maybe the world didn't need larger-than-life heroes. Maybe it just needed more people willing to stand their ground, hold on to their principles, and demand the respect they deserved. If this story moved, you share it with someone who needs to be reminded of the power of respect, strength, and courage, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that inspire challenge and leave you thinking long after the credits roll.